particle layers in Moho to make things like rain and fire and snow, and it is super easy. Let me show you how.
Let's start with a brand new scene file. File and new. On this layer I'm going to create a stand-in background. Just something really quick, just so we have something to look at the snow against. This is just a shape, a square or rectangle, and I'm just going to click drag over my camera and fill that space. Control J to show rendered area. That's going to be our background, and let's rename this to background. Let's be tidy. Now we are going to create the snow. So we go up to scripts and particle effects, and there are some default options here, and we're going to use snow. Click snow, and Moho creates snow. Let's have a little gander at what's going on. So there's obviously an emitter above the scene here that looks like it has some depth to it, and we can see some fluffy shapes in the screen. One thing I will tell you is that Moho is simplifying the particle system for ease of use so that we can still use our workspace, but it is not showing you fully what is going on. So if we Control R or Command R to render that scene, we can see that there is way too many fluffy balls of snow, and I don't really like what the default is either. So this is going to need fixing and playing with, and that's the fun bit. So let's have a look what's going on. Over here in the layer panel, we'll just open this folder, snow. You can tell this is a particle layer, and it has 6 layers inside it, vector shapes, all labeled particle 1 to 6, and up here near the emitter is where they live. Let's just bring this down just to show you what's going on. So if we click on particle 1 and select shape or Q on the keyboard to select, we can see that there is not much going on actually. I can't barely see it. I want something a bit chunkier than that. Over here in the styles window we can see what's set, so it's very opaque, there's no stroke, there is an effect on it, soft edge. If I click plane to get rid of that soft edge, I get a hard edge back. Yeah, I think I want that rather than a soft edge. I don't want it to be so fluffy. Also, I want to be able to see it, so I'm just going to put this right up to 100. I'm going to add a stroke, make it the same color, and I'm going to add a brush, something nice and blobby. Yeah, like that. Nice and blobby, so it has like a rough edge, you can't really see, it doesn't really have a shape, and it's going to look different every time, like a snowflake. And yeah, I think that it's much more preferred. So I'm just going to go do that same system, just change the fill, change the stroke, take off the effect for every other particle. So now all our snowflakes look how I want them to. Let's play through the scene and see what's happening. We'll have to move our emitter back up out of frame, obviously. Oh, it looks pretty. Put that really high up there and just play through that. So I like them a lot more than the fluffy defaults that Moho sets. Oh, I can see a couple of these, well, more than a couple. They're dying on screen. So let's have a look at the particle options that we have available. There's 2 ways you can get to the options. You can double click on the snow layer, click on the particles tab, and here are all the options, or you can select special, and up here the exact same options are available to us. So we can see that the particle count is set to 500, and the preview particles, what we're actually seeing on screen, is set to 20. I want these to be a lot smaller and closely matched. So now when I press play, I can see exactly what is going to be rendered. I like that. I like that a lot more. What needs to change is the fact that they are dying on screen, and that will probably be, yes, the lifetime of the particle is set to 60 frames. So I'm going to place this up to 100? Yeah, 100. So they should last the entire scene before they die. Yes. What else can we play with? Ooh, I tell you what will be fun. Source width? Yeah, that's just gonna edit the emitter. And oh, depth. Source depth. Nice. I like that. Need a bit of a volumetric look to this snow. Ooh, yeah, yeah, woohoo. Okay, so let's make my scene a bit longer. I'm going to say 75 frames. No, I'm going to set it to 100. Treat myself. So I've now got 100 frames of snowy particles, and I love them. Oh, I know what would be really cool. Let's add some depth of field. So in project settings, you can enable depth of field in the project and oh, can you see what happened there? They've gone blurry already. If I change the max blur radius, some of them come back into focus and some of them leave. If we up it, it goes extreme. We just want a little bit. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you just spent ages taking the blur off these snowflakes. Why are you putting blur back on? But I can control this. I couldn't control where, like, it's blurry in relation to where the camera is. So some of the particles that are closer to camera will be in focus and some of the ones that are far away will be out of focus. Oh, and they come in focus when we zoom in. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? Love that. So that is why. So I want these particles to look nice and fluffy, but in a camera way, not in a particle way. So I'm going to click OK. I've left that at 5 pixels. You can edit this however you like. I don't know the first... Oh my god, that's so nice. I don't know the first thing about cameras, so you might have to Google some of these and see what they do. I'm just going to leave these two as default, so I'm going to set 5 pixels as max blur, and I'm going to click OK. So in this scene file, we now have depth of field enabled, and this is what it's giving us, and I love it. Now, I want to be able to have a looping GIF with my snow at the end of this, but we cannot do that with the particles. The particles will always start from 0, I believe. Like I think it's one of the options that on start, and they have a full speed start. You can't change. It will always be like, if I duplicated this, it will be different every time. On frame 100, and this is, we want frame 100 and frame 1 to be exactly the same for a loop, right? So what we're going to do to get around that is render these particles out as a video with alpha and bring them back into the scene file so that we can duplicate them and control them and animate the opacity on and off so we can create a proper loop. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to turn the background off, so I have just my snow enabled, and I'm going to render this out. So File, Export Animation, Video, and a MOV with PNG alpha. Perfect. I'm going to save it to the desktop. Don't shout at me. I know. Icky. Snowflakes. That's what I will call that. And I'm going to render that out. Slightly longer render times there because of the camera depth of field. Yay! Okay, not sure if you can see that, but now we have some nice falling snow for 100 frames. And I'm going to just hide this in my scene. I want my GIF to be 50 frames long, for example. Re-enable the background. I'm going to import that video. Import. No, not tracing image. File. Import movie, head to the desktop, find my snowflakes, don't look at my desktop. So here we are, now we have the movie playing over my background. Beautiful, great. Let's just look in the sequencer just so we can see in a very visual way what is happening. So we have a 50 frame shot, but our snowflakes are 100 frames long, obviously. That is perfect, we did that on purpose so we have a lot of room to play with. So we need the correct frame, like any frame, but a frame of this to be the very last frame of a duplicate, so that when we play it all together, it starts and ends in the same place. So if I move this forward 20 frames so that the first frame is actually frame 20 of this, So it would end on 80 basically. And then duplicate this layer. 5, 10, 15, 20. That's where it needs to start. And just check. So this is now starting and ending on the same spot. It's really difficult to be able to see, obviously, because this is still visible. So it is, you shunt this one 20 frames that way and shunt this one 20 frames the other way. And so they're both starting and ending on frame 20. Now what we will do is animate the opacity of these two layers across this so it transitions. Easy stuff. I'm going to do that back in the timeline. So snowflakes, mov. What we want to do first is make sure we have animated effects selected, and then we want to animate the opacity to 0 at the end. So I'm on the end frame and I have a key here that is at 0. At frame 35, let's set it to 100. Click OK, and so this is now animating off. So now we want to make sure that the other layer, snowflakes 2, is animated on. So double click the layer, click animated effects to enable us to be able to animate these, and the opacity here will be 0. And at 50, it will be 100. I hope this is making sense. So we want this 0 to start all the way over here as well, and we will delete this one. So it's given us, ooh, no girl. Cool. I can't delete this one because it's essentially this sequence is frame 0, so we just have to make sure it's set correctly. So now one comes off and one comes on, and they end and begin on the exact same frame. So if I set this to 49, obviously, because we don't want a little glitch, we want one frame less. So there is a little bit of a crossover transition here in the middle that like isn't perfect, but it is looping. That is a shame, isn't it? It never looks as beautiful as I want it to. So maybe if I move this to 30, just have it a little bit longer. A little bit. Can I put this to there? Yeah, let's just have the a little bit faster, and let's have this one end sooner as well, so just 5 frames sooner. It's a little better. That will do. I think I'm happy with that. At least it's looping at the start and the end. But what I will do to distract from that is I'm going to bring a character in and have her animate over this join, probably from like frame 25 to frame 40, that kind of area, just to distract a little bit from this doubling up of flakes. I think that will work. So on frame 0, I'm going to delete this now because I don't need it. Just don't want my scene file to be slowed down. I'm going to file, import, and bring in a character I've already prepared. Here she is, Lush. So let's animate her. On frame 1, let's set a pause. And there we go. You have a looping GIF I'm happy with, the looping character, and looping snow.
So that's how you can make snow in Moho, and it can loop. Have fun adding that to your own projects. And follow me for more. I'll see you for the next quickie. Bye!